Let me ask you something. Have you ever watched a powerful family make a decision so quietly, so calmly, and so permanently that you didn't even realize what happened until it was already over? Because that is exactly what just went down inside Buckingham Palace. And the two people who lost everything in this moment, they aren't even old enough to read the headlines about it. Here's what just happened. According to reports coming from inside the palace walls, official documents have finally been finalized. Not rough drafts, not internal memos, not "we'll think about it later." Final orders. And these orders change absolutely everything for two children who never asked to be part of this battle. We're talking about Archie and Lilibet, the son and daughter of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. According to people familiar with the process, the message inside those papers was painfully clear. Their right to be called royal? Gone. Not postponed, not being reconsidered, not waiting for a family meeting. Gone permanently. Now, you might be thinking, wait a minute, weren't they already not using titles? And that's a fair question, but here's where this story gets interesting. This wasn't just a PR decision or a family disagreement. This was legal paperwork, finalized, approved, sealed. And the palace's long silence finally makes sense now, doesn't it? They weren't ignoring the situation. They weren't confused about what to do. They were waiting, calm, patient, confident that the old rulebook would speak louder than anything Harry and Meghan ever said in interviews or documentaries. But to understand why the royal family made such a final choice, we have to look at a very old book. And I mean really old, like 1917 old. Back when the world was at war, kingdoms were literally falling apart, and the British royal family was terrified of one thing above all else: confusion, fake claims, political disasters caused by people pretending to be royal when they weren't. So, King George V did something no British king had ever done before. He wrote it all down, in official legal language, exactly who could be called a prince or a princess, not as a suggestion, not as tradition, as law. And here's the part that most people have no idea about. That document, called the Letters Patent, established 3 strict rules that every single royal child must meet. Ready for this? Rule 1. The child must come from a real royal family line. No outsiders, no shortcuts. Rule 2. The child's birth must be officially recognized and recorded by the Crown itself, not through a press release, not through a social media post, but through the royal household. And Rule 3. The child must be connected to the Church of England through an official baptism, not optional, not flexible, treated as a legal requirement for royal identity. Now, for nearly 100 years, every royal birth followed these rules perfectly. No exceptions, no special cases, no drama. Until Archie. And this is where the first crack appeared in the royal paperwork. So here's what happened, and trust me, this is where things get fascinating. When Archie was born in 2019, his birth certificate initially listed his mother the way most legal documents would: Rachel Meghan Markle. Normal? Correct. Standard procedure. But then, quietly, without explanation, that document was changed. Meghan's full legal name was removed and replaced with a single phrase: Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Sussex. Now, let me pause here because I need you to understand how unusual this is. Birth certificates are not like social media bios. You don't just update them for fun. They are meant to be permanent legal records. So, when this change appeared, it set off alarm signals behind palace walls. According to sources familiar with the situation, Meghan claimed the palace forced the change. Palace staff claimed Meghan requested it. Both sides said the other was wrong, and to this day, no one has ever provided a final agreed-upon answer. But here's what truly mattered to the royal family. A royal birth record had been changed. And once a royal record has doubt attached to it, that doubt becomes a crack, and cracks spread, and cracks grow, and cracks eventually lead to everything falling apart. But wait, there's more. By the time Lilibet was born in 2021, the palace had already learned something powerful. Silence can be louder than any words. When her birth came, the world expected a familiar picture: royal doctors standing by, official announcements from Buckingham Palace, photographers ready to capture the newest member of the royal family. But none of that happened. Instead, the announcement came from thousands of miles away, wrapped in a cheerful press release from sunny California. A modern announcement, a friendly message, a picture-perfect statement. But something was missing. Actually, someone was missing: the crown. There was no royal seal, no palace confirmation, no official record, no sign of any official royal witness. And to people who study royal rules closely, this wasn't a small oversight. This was a signal, a quiet message sent without a single spoken word. We are not claiming this child. For hundreds of years, royal births had been treated almost like historical ceremonies. Every detail mattered: where the child was born, who delivered them, which doctors signed off, how the crown recorded it. These steps weren't just tradition, they were the royal family's way of saying, "This child belongs to our history." With Lilibet, none of those steps were followed. Now, here's my honest take on this. To the average person watching at home, this probably looks like a simple paperwork difference. One baby born in the UK, one baby born in America. No big deal, right? But to the palace, this was massive. Lilibet became the first Windsor relative in modern times to enter the world completely outside the royal record. And inside Buckingham Palace, this was not seen as an accident. It was seen as a departure, a break from the path every royal baby had walked for 100 years. The quiet rejection had officially begun. And just when you think it couldn't get more complicated, we have to talk about baptism, because months later, Meghan shared that Lilibet had been baptized in California. She spoke warmly about the ceremony, the joy, the photos, the meaning. But behind palace walls, the reaction was very different, because for royal children, a baptism isn't just a nice family event with cake and photos. It is one of the main requirements from that 1917 rulebook. It is the moment a child is officially tied to the Church of England, the crown, and hundreds of years of tradition. It is a legal marker, just as important as a birth certificate. But according to sources familiar with church records, Lilibet's California baptism was never registered with the Church of England. Let that sink in. To Harry and Meghan, it was a beautiful and meaningful celebration. To the royal family, it was a ceremony that, on paper, did not exist. And in the royal world, this is not a minor issue. A child without a recognized Church of England baptism is considered to exist outside the official record. No matter how deeply meaningful the ceremony was to the family, inside palace circles, it was seen as an avoidable but permanent mistake. The Crown viewed it as a break in the rules, not by the child, but by the parents. And instead of strengthening Lilibet's connection to the royal family, the event did the exact opposite. It left her floating between two worlds, celebrated by her family in America, but unrecognized by the very system she was born into. Now here's where this story takes an unexpected turn. While these cracks were forming quietly, Harry did something no one expected from a prince who had declared he was done with the royal family. He reached back. According to those familiar with private conversations, Harry made late-night phone calls to the very system he had walked away from. These were not planned calls, not polished media speeches. They were emotional, personal, and desperate. He reportedly begged the palace to reconsider. He begged for Archie and Lilibet to be written into the royal record. He begged for the titles he believed his children deserved by blood. And look, I have to be honest here. You can feel however you want about Harry and Meghan, but this part is genuinely heartbreaking. To Harry, this wasn't about fame or marketing or attention. This was about legacy. The one thing he believed he could protect even after stepping down from royal duties. He thought he could leave the daily work behind and still raise children who would be recognized as royal heirs.
But every time he tried to explain, he reportedly hit the same immovable wall. A palace official allegedly responded with a sentence so cold, so direct, that it stayed with him for months. This is not about emotion. This is about order, family line, and the future of the crown. And for Harry, that was the moment everything changed, because he realized something truly painful. He wasn't just the prince who had stepped away from royal life. He had become the prince whose children were being erased from it. Once the palace made its decision, it moved with remarkable speed. No cameras, no press conferences, no dramatic royal statements, just quiet, steady action, the kind the crown is famous for. According to insiders, the consequences were not gentle, not temporary, and not open for discussion. So, what did Archie and Lilibet actually lose? According to reports, here is the full list. No royal titles. No prince, no princess, no ceremonial roles, no official duties, no public honors, their names removed from the legal line of succession, no crown-funded security, with their protection left entirely to their parents, no permanent place in royal files, the books that outlast centuries no longer include them. In the world of royalty, titles aren't just fancy words you put on an invitation. They are keys. They open doors to history. They tie a child to a family line that stretches back generations. They guarantee a place in a story bigger than any single individual. Without those keys, a royal child becomes ordinary. And that is exactly what the palace's final orders accomplished. Now here's my personal take on this whole situation. Is it fair? Honestly, I don't know. The rules were written long before any of these people were born. The palace simply applied them the same way they would apply them to anyone. But there is something undeniably sad about watching a family dispute play out in legal documents and permanent records. These children didn't choose any of this, and yet they will grow up in a world where their own family's history books don't mention their names. That is heavy. And I think it's okay to acknowledge that, while also understanding why the palace felt it had to follow its own rules. In the end, Buckingham Palace never shouted, never argued, never tried to outtalk the storm of interviews, podcasts, or documentaries. It didn't need to, because the royal family has always understood its greatest power: silence. And here's the thing about silence that most people don't realize. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is strategy. Silence is the crown's way of saying everything without saying a single word. For years the palace watched from a distance, quiet, still, patient. It watched Meghan build her brand as a royal mother. It watched Harry struggle to connect two completely different worlds. It watched the documentaries, the public speeches, and the criticisms of the palace, all without responding. Why? Because the royal family knew something the rest of us had forgotten. Power is not proven with noise. Power is proven with finality. And when the time came, the crown acted with the cold precision of a system older than empires. It removed titles, it rewrote records, it erased names from history's path. The crown does not bend, not for personalities, not for celebrity, not for noise or attention. And once the crown chooses to erase your place in its story, you are not a rebel, you are not a threat, you are not even a chapter, you are simply gone.